if you're consistent, if they know that every Tuesday and every Thursday that you're going to call, or there's going to be a video call at exactly 7 o'clock, because at this age, they really haven't mastered time. But what they do know is right after the time I get done eating, or right before SpongeBob SquarePants come on or whatever, Daddy's gonna call. So I want you to focus on establishing that routine and being consistent no matter what is taking place. I want you to make sure that you fixate it, because the children will begin to anticipate your call. Hi, I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and welcome to the Dr. G.L. White Show. Today, we're going to talk about ways that a father needs to show up for his children, especially when you're not in the home. I'm going to give some recommendations I think that are very important and are helpful for you, regardless of whether or not you live next door or you live in another state. Your involvement, your consistency, and your commitment still must reign true. You may not readily see the benefits of it, but you will see that it will begin to show up in your child's behavior and in your child's response to you. Now, how this involvement shows up varies sometimes by the age of the child. Whether they're in elementary school, there are certain things that you want to do in terms of ensuring that you're consistent and persistent in being present. But that looks a little different from what happens when the child reaches middle school, when they began to move a little bit towards their independence. And then finally, how you show up as a father when they're in high school. So all three of these different stages require different approaches to being involved. But all of them, I'm going to tell you to take the opportunity to try them out. And also, I want to encourage you to kind of share them with some of your friends or other fathers that you know that may be struggling with trying to figure out how to show up and to be present when you're not in the home. So let's talk about elementary school. Now, elementary really is the age when we began to look at somewhere between 5 and 10 years old. And so what that level of involvement looks like is different. Now, the psychologist Erik Erikson talks about the ages and stages of development. And that particular age and stage of development, Erikson identifies as this thing called an industry versus inferiority. That means their ability, they began to develop a sense of learning how to do things while at the same time beginning to kind of compare themselves with other people. So some of the typical behaviors that you'll see in children at this age, which is kind of going to help you in terms of how you want to show up and be present. So at this age, children, they're really eager to learn. They want the structure. They want to kind of learn how to achieve goals. At this age, they kind of begin to compare themselves with other kids in terms of their progress, how they're doing. So the idea of external validation or recognition is important. Now, what I'm telling you, hang tight, because this is going to give you some insight on how I want you to move with the children. At this age, too, they're very sensitive to failures and successes in school. So right away, you should see, when you begin to think about this age, recognition of their achievements and recognition of their efforts are very important. And so I'm going to tell you how you show up here is that when you get a chance to talk to your child at this age, whether it's on social media, whether it's via Zoom, that you celebrate every accomplishment that they've done. Also, try to participate in some of the academic activities for the children. Being on a Zoom while watching your child paint or watching your child color and talking to them about the margins or staying in and out of the margins. Yes, this is what you begin to see at elementary school level, encouraging them to build on their skills and try new things without the failure. So one of the positive languages that you want to kind of give to your children, look, try it, son, try it, daughter. If it doesn't work, who knows? It may be a success or it may not. So try to set this thing called a routine. So what I'm going to offer you up at this level in order to achieve this, I'm going to tell you to consider video chats, consider Zoom, but doing it twice a week at bedtime, for example, or immediately after school. At this age, children don't stay on the Zoom or television phone very long. So what you may be dealing with at most is about 5 to 10 minutes. But if you're consistent, if they know that every Tuesday and every Thursday that you're going to call, or there's going to be a video call at exactly 7 o'clock, because at this age, they really haven't mastered time. But what they do know is right after the time I get done eating or right before SpongeBob SquarePants come on or whatever, daddy's going to call. So I want you to focus on establishing that routine and being consistent no matter what is taking place. I want you to make sure that you fixate it because the children will begin to anticipate your call. Playtime together online is another good strategy at this age for the children. So use age-appropriate games, Pictionary or reading out loud with the children, playing Lego with You Got It and giving instructions, or even some instructional game that you're doing. If you're on Zoom, if they have an opportunity to see it, they're going to get excited. But I'm going to tell you, reading to them becomes a very powerful thing, or having them read to you. So structure your time. So what happens is soon your child will be going, well, daddy's going to call at 2 o'clock. I know I got to get this book ready because he's going to want to read this book, or he's going to want to go through this story. So now they began to anticipate it. This is very critical at this elementary school age level. So use the visuals, right? Share photos, do screen share, do these things, drawing things together, these things that they began to anticipate as a routine. You can even show up by helping them with their homework. As they're doing their math and they're talking to you about the assignment, you're using the FaceTime to help them with the reading. And it's easy and it's an exciting way to stay connected. It gives meaning to your calls. It gives meaning to the significance of being present. Now that's elementary school. Now, as they began to get a little older, right? So now we're talking about this age of about 11 to 13 years old. Now, this looks a little different. Now, Erickson talks about this thing called it's called early identity versus role confusion. Here in middle school is when they began to wrestle with their own identity, right? Trying to understand who they are in the context of their friends and their circles. So some typical behaviors that you may see at this age and at this stage, they began to question authority and they began to challenge or look at or identify what we call some social norms. This is normal, that's not normal. They began to develop some strong peer relationships, right? They began to become aware of their body image. And middle school is a funny thing because you'll begin to see certain kids, especially the girls, they may start being far more developed than the boys. Even for girls at middle school, they began to pay attention to their body image and how it kind of differs from their friends or their peers. So here you'll see them at this stage, they're pushing for and they need more independence. But at the same time, what's equally important is that they need the reassurance. So fathers, continue that structure with them in the room and engaging in the decision making. Provide the emotional safety. Ask questions, giving them permission to express doubt. You don't have to have an answer for everything, but at this age, it's important that you provide them with the amount of support that they need. So continue to be present. They're going to push some boundaries even with you, but it's okay. It has nothing to do with you not being in the home. It has nothing to do with how you show up. This is just what kind of happens at this stage. So what we see about your presence and why it's important, because between this age, they want independence, but at the same time, their need for emotional security is higher than it's ever been. So dads, here's where your role is. In middle school, you may not get the opportunity to do the FaceTime or the Zoom. So guess what? I need you to send texts frequently to them, right? Send them out weekly at the same time. And at this stage, it's okay to be random, right? Keep it light, keep it supportive, use emotions, emojis, use voice messages, anything that you can randomly touch bases with them. It's about the touches. Some touches are directly because you were able to communicate with them, but some touches are in the form of those text messages and voice messages that you may send them. Also, a digital journal together is another way at this age that it becomes important. So you have a Google document, right? And you're writing to them, and now you are able to communicate. So you're telling your child you have the shared document, and you're sending messages and communicating, and now you two have a journal that you have together. Again, this is how you began to show up at the middle school age, right? So take an interest in their music, in their games, or show them that you want to kind of learn. Get them in, you want to try to get into their world. Have them talk about their friends. Have them talk about their conflicts. This is how you began to show up. Fathers, this is your one-on-one relationship with your child. Now, keep in mind, you may have multiple children. So guess what? Yes, at the middle school age, I'm going to challenge you to send those random text messages, to send that random communication to all of them. Talk with them, sound interested in what they're doing, ask them about their school, ask them about the things that they're doing in life, and also pay attention to who they hang out with, and you try to create some opportunities when you can to be present. Watch a show together. So the concept of hanging out is, it's one of these where you're going to sit down and you all are going to watch a movie together. Same time, same movie on Netflix, but you're in your location and they're in their location, but you all are enjoying whatever the same movie is together. These are some positive and powerful ways to kind of be present and to show up for the children. So middle school is one thing. You're dealing with identity, role confusion. You're dealing with the need to push to be more independent. You're going to find yourself at the middle school that there's going to be less contact and less communication with you. Well, then you have the responsibility or the task or the skill for showing up when they're in high school. Now, high school, by this time, again, you still have the identity versus role confusion because they're measuring themselves with other people, but there's less interest sometimes that the children have with their parents' involvement, or at least it gives the appearance of having less interest of them. Some behaviors that you're going to see with high school kids is that they're actively exploring, they're involved with several sports and other activities, but internally, they began to develop their own personal beliefs. Sometimes it's about their religion. Sometimes it's about what they're seeing in society. Sometimes it's about political issues, their identity in high school, their career goals. These are some things that are kind of common when our kids get to that level of high school. You're also going to find at the high school level that there's an increased level of emotionality and sensitivity and self-expression and even risk-taking. I'm telling you that all of this is normal. You went through it. And so expect that they're going to go through it too. So fathers, the affirmation that you want to give them as they began to develop their identity, put on your seatbelt and ride with it wherever it's going. It's important to try to be non-judgmental, right? Our children in high school, some of them say things that are literally designed to try to knock you off your square. That's what they do. Again, that's what you do. But hang tight, listen, receive it, but try to stay present in what you're doing. Try not to multitask when you talk with them because their communication sometimes will show up in the form of their silence. Some children at this age, they talk less, but their body language becomes far more expressive. So work with them, be persistent as they navigate their spirituality, as they navigate the rapid growth and development that they're undergoing. You want to try to stay present with them. This is important because the teens, they need the autonomy and they need the respect at the same time, and they need your presence. So they're navigating this identity. They're trying to figure out who they are. Often they don't even ask for the connection, but they still need it. So at this age, middle school, elementary school, you might tell your child, I love you. And you get to high school and they're like, really, Dad? Really? Yeah. The communication may not be there, but it's in their body language, it's in their facial expressions. Fathers, at this age too, I need you to try to be a little respectful of their schedule. Ask what works for them as the check-ins occur. Now, here's a little caveat to this. One of the things I see oftentimes is that when parents have a disagreement, divorce may occur, or they may have never been married, and now there's a visitation order or a visitation plan that you may have established when they were at elementary school that said the first, third, and fifth weekends and alternating holidays. And I love to tell parents, as someone who's been doing this for over 30 years, that visitation plan and that schedule, it may have worked in elementary school, it may have even worked somewhat by the time you got to middle school, but by the time you get to high school, the parents, you will find trying to manage their schedule or try to enforce some order or some plan that you have in place, you see it becomes that much more difficult. Why? Because now they're developing their own lives. And so this is a wave that I invite you to prepare to ride. But I still want you to send some thoughtful words to them. I still want you to be random. I want you to send them some podcasts. Send a note to your child. Hey, I logged on to the Dr. Geo White show and take a look at what they said about being present. Send it to your child. Let me know what you think, right? Do these type of things, podcasts and other little shorts that you can send them. It's going to always create an opportunity to have some dialogue with them. This is also the stage that you can begin to, believe it or not, mentor your children. Yes, they're your children, but they still need the level of guidance. Here, you might be talking about college. You might be talking about trade. You might be talking to them about career. You might be talking to them about military. You are talking to them about the concept of establishing goals and developing relationships. Now, here's the tricky thing. I don't want you to push too hard on that. And here's the reason why. It's a good chance, fathers, that what you're doing right now in your career or what you're doing right now in your job, when you were your child's age, this was not what you had in mind. The truth of the matter is, for many of us, what we thought we were going to do, or what we said we were going to do when we were in middle school and high school, looks nothing like the career of the profession that we've changed and we've selected. So if you changed, it's really a good chance that they're going to change too. So dads, I need you to be available. Let them know that you're always there, that you care for them. Our children at this age will tend to call at some random times. So I need you to be prepared that you're going to get some random calls that sound something like this. Hey, Dad. Hey, son. What you doing? Nothing. What's going on? Nothing. Everything okay? Yeah. So everything okay at school? Yeah, just call and say hi. All right, I gotta go, Dad. All right, and now you look and say, what the hell was this? Truth of the matter is, sometimes our kids will call just to hear our voice, just to get a sense of security. So how the relationship shows up in its present can make a very big difference. Now, in saying all this in terms of how you're showing up, I'm going to tell you that having a good relationship with the mother, I'm not saying a great one, but a functional relationship with the mother is going to help you in how you show up. It's going to impact the amount of access and engagement and responsibility that you're able to show and take toward your children. So showing up and being present can result in what I call the maternal gate opening. So allowing you to have that amount of access. And so in all of this, I'm saying at the same time, focus on developing that relationship with the custodial parent, because the amount of showing up that you can do at the schools, at the church, in the community settings is going to be directly correlated with the functionality of the relationship with the mother. When it's not good, then you see a lot of maternal gatekeeping. So your ability to show up then becomes hindered. When there's a lot of conflict and increased emotional stress, your ability to show up can be challenging. You might have to move to a certain point doing some parallel parenting where you minimize the direct contact. But I'm going to tell you, as long as you can have that level of open communication, when they're in high school, the dependency on the custodial parent is not as important, or let me say that, is not as significant because your child is going to reach out to you. But by the time they get to middle school, when they're in middle school and elementary school, then the way you communicate with the custodial parent is going to have a direct impact. So you don't have to live in the home to be a powerful, present parent. So I'm going to tell you to focus on keeping conflicts low so that you can show up. Keep communication with the child focused so you can show up. And keep showing up no matter what, because fatherhood is not always about the proximity to the child as much as it is the consistency. So I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and I'm just giving you a few tidbits on how to show up for your children. I'll toast to that.